Morning, everybody. Maurice Miller, Wealth Advisor here with Redwood Financial Network. I wanted to discuss this Monday morning money matter about generational wealth again. I know it's the same topic that we kind of discussed last week, but I want to go back because it's a lot more important and deeper than just a couple minutes on a video. But I really want to focus on the mentality behind generational wealth building. A lot of times we make the mistake of thinking that if we ourselves aren't wealthy or aren't on our path to wealth, that somehow they can't do that. And really, that's a flawed way of thinking because with generational wealth, it's really putting the next generation ahead so that eventually somebody can get there, even if it's not necessarily you. And I really want to focus on the mental aspect of it because the mental part is what's going to determine the actions that we take. And when we think about the mentality, any decision that you make, especially financial decisions, should all go back to how is the next generation going to be affected by this? How would my children's be affected by this? So think about it. When we are presented with the opportunity to, let's say, buy life insurance, and as a advisor, a lot of times what I've heard is, oh, well, I'm not going to make anybody else rich, or oh, I don't want to pay that much for it, whatever that much may be. But think about how would the next generation be impacted by you saying no? None of us knows the day we're going to go, but if we were to go before we thought we would, wouldn't it make more sense for us to make sure that the next generation would be taken care of in our absence? And if you don't have children, I don't want you to check out because you may have nieces, nephews, grandchildren, community that is going to be impacted by the decisions that you make. On the flip side of that, we also have to look at the yeses that we give. And just because something may be a good opportunity, it may not be the best opportunity. For instance, always go back to the idea of purchasing a car. And I do that because it's one of the most wasteful ways that we as people use our money. And I'm not saying that cars aren't necessary, and obviously they are, especially depending on the size of your family. But think about it. Let's say you go out and buy a car and you pay a monthly note on it. That's $400. Well, after a few years of paying on that car, 4 or 5 years, you will have paid, $20,000, $25,000. Now imagine if instead of paying 400, you paid 200. Obviously, it's not as nice of a car, but then that 200 goes towards your children's education or towards that life insurance that you say you can't afford or towards starting a business. Again, how is the next generation? How are the children's going to be affected by that? Another thing that we think about is the examples that we give our children. Even if it's a penny laying on the ground, I try to teach my daughter what that means financially. So if you are someone who runs errands a lot of times with your children, teach them then about money habits. When you go to the bank, make sure that they see you putting money in there just as much, if not more, than they see you taking money out of there. Remember, building generational wealth is all about a mentality, a way of thinking, a thought process. Another way that generational wealth is built is by proper planning. I saw a study that said for small businesses that are family owned, by the time it gets to the second generation, only about 30% of those businesses are still in existence. And then to the next generation after that, it's about 12%. Now think about it. Do you really think somebody who owns a family business does not want to keep that going? A lot of times it's because we're not thinking about the next generation while we're building up that business. And if you don't have that business built yet, think about where the idea of that business is. Hopefully, it's not just in your mind. Because if you have a business idea in your mind and you were to die before that business comes to life, what happens with that idea? It's gone. So, another part of writing down your goals keeping them in a safe place is also thinking about the next generation, that if I can't do it, then who will come along behind me and do it. So remember, building generational wealth is not just about money. It's really about how you think, how you act on a daily basis, and really thinking about every opportunity, good or bad. How will the next generation be affected by this yes or this no? So please leave your comments, questions, and have a good one.